Game development is a lot like making videos. Both are full of trial and error. Yesterday I live streamed my work on the falling death mechanic for my Contra inspired game, and let's just say it was an adventure in mistakes and some fixes. I'm still getting the hang of streaming and video production. Sometimes that means things don't go exactly as planned. Like forgetting to verify my audio is working during a live stream, but honestly it's part of the learning process. Just like game development, when you're coding, designing, and even tweaking gameplay, trial and error is the name of the game. For example, getting fallen deaths to work in my game took a bit of tinkering, adjusting logic, testing over and over, and fixing bugs I didn't even know I'd introduced. Each mistake was a stepping stone to getting it right. Video production is much the same way. Every misstep teaches you something you didn't know before, and that's how you grow. So today, we're going to turn that chaos into something functional and hopefully entertaining. Let me show you what I worked on, this time with audio. The concept we're working on revolves around the idea that a player can fall to their death when they fall below the screen. I used Bracky's tutorial as a starting point, which incorporates a feature known as the kill zone. Initially, I employed a world boundary as the floor beneath the water so we could walk through it. However, I have since replaced it with a platform as we need the player to be able to fall below the water level. My current approach to constructing this game is not optimal. I'm building the platforms around the elements I created with the tile maps, rather than applying physics directly to the tile maps themselves. While this method may not be advisable for larger scale projects, my goal is to develop a single player level for my website, after which I can apply the insights gained in this process to my future projects. I've created the fall death zone scene and attached a basic script to it. It extends Area 2D and simply displays the message "You've died for now." A significant oversight I encountered while preparing for the stream and conducting tests was setting the collision mask to the proper layer. I had it on 1 while the player is on layer 2, which resulted in considerably wasted time. To simplify the project design, I added a world boundary collision shape within the level to the fall death zone just below the bottom of the water platform, ensuring that if the player falls off screen, they will enter this designated area. Again, this should be an example of how not to structure your game. This is a rather rudimentary, but as it's a merely one-off project, I'm dragging out the digital duct tape and popsicle sticks. For example, when you trigger a player's death, it requires that we pass in a hurt box. However, we can bypass this by passing in a null reference, as the hurt box is not utilized within the player died function. Typically, one would use the hurt box object to reference its location, damage value, and types of damage. However, in a Contra style game, any hit results in a death, so we're going to simply kill the player when this function is invoked. We don't need the extra logic. I have added a new signal and function within the game manager to manage instances of a falling death. Given that the game manager serves as a global reference, we can call the fell to death function from any location within our code, which will emit a signal indicating that the player has fallen to their demise. In the player script, we establish a connection between the game manager fell to death signal and the player died function. It became apparent that the system was not functioning properly, as when the player fell, I never saw them respawn. I discovered that it made the player spawner a node of the camera, which was also a node of the player. To rectify this, I zoomed out the camera to locate the respawner and enable collision shapes so we could see what happens as we troubleshoot. I reparented the player spawner to the player and attempted to set its Y global position to a static value through the process function, but this did not yield the desired results. Then I reparented the spawner to the level itself and assigned the X position within that to the player, which also proved ineffective, as it remained stationary. After careful thought, I realized this was due to it referencing a copy of the player created during the onReady setup, rather than the actual player instance. With a little more thought, I also concluded that we only need to update the X value of the spawner's location upon the player's death, not every frame. Consequently, I added a new signal to Game Manager to invoke Update Spawner just before the fall death signal, enabling us to position the spawner right before the player dies. Testing revealed that the system was still non-functional because I had neglected to add in the connector to listen to the signal from the Game Manager so it could update its position. Simple fix, but an easy one to miss. At this point, the system was operational. However, sometimes the player appeared to not die when falling to their death. I discovered that if the player is still invulnerable when entering the fall death zone, it prevents the player's death. If we look at our process if statement, we can benefit from not passing a hurt box. If there's no hurt box present, we bypass the invulnerability check and proceed to kill the player. Moving forward, I will tidy up all the elements that we adjusted during the troubleshoot process and restore everything to its proper state. There remain a few additional bugs to address concerning the fade-out effect. I certainly need to refine the elements associated with the end stage itself, but we are making significant progress towards achieving a complete, albeit brief, gaming experience. Game dev is messy, and that's okay. Mistakes teach us more than easy wins ever could. If you're on your own game dev journey, I hope this inspires you to keep experimenting, and hey, if you like watching me stumble through mine, don't forget to subscribe for some more.